You've heard the suggestion from Mr. Adegborua here on the manner in which the federal government, the Attorney General, is fighting this corruption issue in the first place. They say the locus of the Attorney General. Why not the CBN fighting this issue, Mr. Obla?
Look, my learned friend is being emotional over these matters, and he has made some statements that are not correct. Let me, for instance, how can he be talking about an indictment by EFCC? In the case of Rotimi Amaechi and INEC, the Supreme Court said EFCC cannot make any indictment against anybody. An indictment must be by a court of competent jurisdiction. So then also in the case of Atiku Abubakar and the Attorney General of the Federation, the Supreme Court also emphasized that point, that nobody can issue an indictment except a court of competent jurisdiction. And then he is talking about EFCC indicting Mr. Abdul Rashid. That is not a finding of guilt against that man. Then secondly, he talks about federalism. Banking is a matter under the exclusive legislative list of the Constitution. And you know that every matter, every item under the exclusive legislative list is under the competency of the federal government of Nigeria. Only the National Assembly can legislate or make any law on all the matters, all the items under the exclusive legislative list of the Constitution. And banking inclusive. So what is he talking about when he says that federal government cannot regulate banking? The central bank is an agency of the federal government of Nigeria, and banking is an item under the exclusive legislative list. The Attorney General of the Federation is, by Section 150 of the Constitution, is the Chief Law Officer of the Federation. He is the custodian of the Constitution. The guardian is the custodian of public interest. So the Attorney General of Nigeria, of the Federation, can go to court concerning 46 million bank accounts that are not linked to BVN for the past 3 years, despite the clear directive of Central Bank of Nigeria. And if Central Bank of Nigeria, as a regulator, is not doing the proper thing, the Attorney General is a competent party as a custodian of public interest to go to court. No other person.
But so you understand the Nigerian legal system so well. Chief Obla, if I may quickly put this to you, you understand the Nigerian legal system. I want to
finish. You gave him so much time. You gave him so much time. So, and he was on and on and on and on. So let me learn. This selective prosecution he has been talking about, we have said time without number that we are not prosecuting this war against corruption selectively. It is a narrative of supporters of corrupt people who will come and say, oh, if a charge is levied against a politically exposed person, because the man comes from Sokoto and the president is from Katsina, the president is being selective. So this is rubbish. This narrative is rubbish. There is nothing like selectiveness. We have seen members of APC being charged to court. The number 3 man in the country was charged to court twice. One for forging Senate rules, the other one for access declaration. Number 3 is in APC. And so many other members of APC. You know, so what is he talking about selectiveness? The Accountant General of Kebbi State, is Kebbi State not under APC?
Another major issue on the table is about the policies of government is again the contract between the NPA, the Nigerian Ports Authorities, and Intels, which of course is linked to one of the chieftains of the APC, that we understand the contract has been revoked. And you understand all of the politics in all of that. Where is that at the moment? We understand that it's the office of the Attorney General that is involved in all of this. The organization is saying, or the firm is saying, look, they've borrowed some monies and there seems to be breach of the contracts.
Well, I have told you the Attorney General is the custodian of public interests, public goods, is the guardian of the Constitution. And a memo was sent by Nigerian Post Authority to the Office of the Honorable Attorney General for advice on the constitutionality of that contract, which mandates a private firm to collect revenue of the Federation. If you look at Section 162, what they were doing, it amounts to revenue of the Federation, just like stamp duties. I can mention to you a case that was decided by the Court of Appeal last year, where the Court of Appeal held that stamp duties constitute revenue of the Federation. So therefore, a private body cannot be mandated to collect revenue of the Federation. So that is what the Attorney General advised, that look, that contract has to be cancelled. It has nothing to do with anybody, because that company is an official legal person. It has corporate personality. It can be sued and be sued. So all these...
Chief Obla, if I may ask you a straight-on question, if I'm ask you a very straight one on this one, a chieftain of the ruling APC is linked to these organizations. They've come out to say, we apologize, but we will abide with the policy of the TSA, of the government. If the federal government or the Office of Attorney General were looking again into this issue, perhaps be turning around the revocation order?
Well, I don't know about that. I know the MD made an apology that they were wrong. That means the Attorney General was right. And we should not be talking about persons, chieftains of APC. That shows that this government has a will to enforce the law, no matter who is involved. So this government should be commended. If the person you are talking about is a chieftain of APC, then the government has come out to say that the contract entered into with his company some few years ago when this government was not in power. That contract is wrong. It's illegal. It's shortchanging the...
All right, because I will allow Mr. Adegborua to give his closing statement. But tell us, when are you naming the looters? You've promised to do that over and over again. When is the federal government naming the looters?
Well, I'm even surprised that you're asking this question, because the Attorney General on Thursday last week made a categorical statement that the President has directed that he should comply with the order of the Federal High Court to name the looters. So we are going to name them. Give us time. Yes, we are going to place the information on the public domain. There's nothing to hide.
All right. Thank you so much.
That.
As we close the program now, Mr. Adegborua here, I'd like you to, just in about a minute or so, respond to some of the things that Chief Obla said.
On my last reckoning, I believe that my learned friend is occupying a public position of trust as a special advisor to the President on prosecution. And so in that regard, it gives me some worry when he comes out on national television to be talking about things that people raise concern about as rubbish. And I think it has to do with the mentality of those who occupy public office on behalf of Nigerians. Secondly, we're not talking about banking. I mentioned the fund of state government, that the Supreme Court has said that the federal government has no power to tinker with those funds. And then finally, I said that as we speak here today, there is a manhunt for Mr. Abdurrahman Mena by the EFCC, and that has not been lifted. So without lifting that, how do you recall that man into a government that is fighting corruption? Those are the things that I asked him to reconcile. I also asked him to reconcile why he asked judges who had no charges pending against them to step aside and stop from functioning. And then he's rationalizing recalling another civil servant who has been brought back. So in that regard, I believe that this government should not allow the war of corruption to be lost to technicalities. It should go back to the drawing board.
Mr. Ebonolu Adegborua, rights activist and lawyer, many thanks for your time on the program.
Thank you.
And Chief obono-obla, the Senior Assistant to the President on Prosecutions. Thank you so much for your time tonight on the program. And that's our show, everyone. Thank you for being there. I'm sure Kimaloye. Bye for now.